Q&R Code podcast listeners. You are joined today by Quinn and Riley, redhead twins from Wyoming. If you happen to be new here, welcome. It's already over halfway through January, which I do not bring up for fear to be instilled in anyone, but I think that it's useful to remain grounded in dates and presents, and if anything, I feel like reminding yourself of that, even though for me it can feel, and I think a lot of people, it's like, oh my gosh, where does the time go? How did 2025 go by so fast? But I'm also letting that serve as a gratitude practice for myself, being like, yeah, every day counts, and we're sure lucky to be here.
Even the sick days, which I am coming off of a pretty rugged sickness, so I have a croaky voice. I am hoping to not be sniffing and coughing in your ears throughout this episode, but we waited as long as we could to record, and I am not fully recovered, so it is what it is. Quinn will hopefully help me with more of the yapping this time, because I don't have the stamina as I usually do. But yes, it's, we're flying through the first month of the year, and Quinn thought that it would be a good idea to share our words for the year, which I think is a fun tradition that my mother-in-law started. I don't know if she got this from someone or if she's a big idea woman, so there's definitely a chance she just thought to do this, but she always has had the members of her family think of a word that they wanted to kind of focus on for the year, stay in touch with, reach for, whatever it means for you. And this year I decided that my word was verve, which is a little ironic for right now with how I'm feeling, but it's, having that little je ne sais quoi, adding that spice of life to whatever it is that you're doing, and trying to have like energy and pizzazz with my
like you having
day-to-day.
Your hot water bottle with you while you're sick. Your little sheep cozy, as and a really cute green striped sweater. It's the little things that add the vibrance to life.
Exactly. Now, what's your word for the year, Quinn?
Well, Rye, I thought that was really creative. Sean and I both really like your word, and we felt like, okay, I don't know that we could define this ourselves. We have certainly heard it, but we did look it up on the internet, and in fact, I wish I had the definition in front of me, because I thought that the definition brought more clarity, but
okay, sorry, I think that without my sick brain I would have been able to come up with a closer definition, but right now I'm struggling, not gonna lie, you guys.
But also for you, if it's more of the vibe of it, that it's your word, it gets to be it serves the functional purpose you need it to.
Yeah, I was going for a little bit of a change up, because last year my word for 2025 was lock in, and I've been locked in for long enough.
Yeah, you just wanted to bring a little funk and spice into things. My word for this year is centered, and something that I want to be taking with me into the new year is both the mental and physical sense of centeredness that is kind of like a anxiety roll off my back, like a water off a duck. That is anxiety is what I want to leave behind as much as possible, because I truly believe that I am not anxious. I have struggled with feelings of anxiety, and that's probably one of the biggest dampers in my life that I also was really inspired for the word centered, because that is one of the principles that I focus on in my horsemanship, mulemanship, is for training with the animals, is like one of our biggest pillars that we try to focus on is getting our equine physically and mentally centered. And I thought, I love that because that is my biggest goal for my equine right now. And that just serves as a great goal for me. So honestly, even just a couple weeks into the new year, I have used this word as a tool that has helped bring me back multiple times where I have, like, there was a day I went into work that I was like, wow, whew, I am kind of feeling like my brain is running at 100 miles an hour and it's in 5 places, and like my body not feeling so good, heart racing. And honestly, the power of just having this one word to focus on, it did. Thankfully, I've just implemented it in a way already where it's like, ding, think of my word. And I really practiced on my breath work and my power that I know I can harness to become centered.
I love that. And I do think that it's nice to just have a grounding concept. We've already done our episode kind of talking about resolutions and our take on that for right now and how we're feeling with goals, but it can be nice that you just are kind of putting energy towards something, but it's not super high pressure and is just almost like a little mantra to carry with you. And I feel like having that focus for the year, then, because I've done this for several years now, it kind of helps just your growth and shape you in that way that come the end of the year, the payoff is, aw, I just saw the best leap ever up onto mom's lap, right where she belongs.
Yes.
But
Lucifer,
I feel like
the guest, our most frequent guest.
Yes. Anyway, kind of just carries on with you, so it's not like it's left behind in the year. It just accumulates and accumulates. This is what I'm saying, guys. My little. Oh my gosh, just quick sidebar because we don't need to be on this long, but with my bad brain, as we know, I'm doing an intro to construction class. Is it what I hoped it would be? Not exactly, but I'm learning nonetheless. And the current unit that we're on is construction math. You cannot convince me that this math that they are asking of us in this chapter, anyone on a job site is doing. They're having us do long division, multiplication, and division using both fractions and decimals by hand. None of this with calculators.
Nice.
I'm like, really? You're telling me that on Dad's job site, he's like, okay, 247,956 divided by 714. Give me a pen and paper. No.
This was the opportunity that you did not know you needed to do a little bit of mental math again, because boy, that does grow the brain, and I see how this week that might feel like a little much, but I don't want to say I'm jealous because that's not the energy I feel, but I have longed for recalling more division on paper, on scratch paper, a multiplication problem. In fact, I actually when I was journaling the other day, flipped to the back of my composition notebook and was like, oh my gosh, look at this key. Amazing to remember that they have the whole inner back page of a composition notebook is all of these little tricks for the trade. And I was like, I had totally forgot these technicalities about fractions. Wow. Felt really good, honestly, to be like, ooh, my brain is sparking. That's lighting things up that have been rested for a long time.
I feel like I never really got a good grip on long division, and I just did successfully do some long division, so that's a good thing, I guess. But again, I'm like, I just don't really buy it that this is going down on the job site, that they're like, yeah, I'm I'm gonna convert this mixed number really quick. Pass me some scratch paper. I'm like, I think there's definitely math that has to happen. Don't get me wrong. I don't want people being like, "Oh, you don't think there's math on the job site?" I do think that there is, but hey, it's good to work out those muscles, I suppose. Um, but before we go too deep into the episode, because we have just some fun stuff we want to chat about, I do feel that it must be acknowledged what is going on across the country, unfortunately, with ICE and immigration raids and the extreme violence that's happening in terms of people being kidnapped, shot, and killed in at least one instance. There was also a death in one of the holding camps that appears to have been a homicide, and I, of course, am so disgusted by that. Quinn and I have made it very clear how we feel about immigration in this country and in any country, frankly. I just don't believe that. I know it's complicated and it's so hard for some people to understand that someone could feel this way, but I just don't feel like anyone should be restricted to where they can move around in the world, especially given the history of colonization and the climate of the times. I think if people need to make the choice to move for their families' safety, well-being, whatever it is, that we're really in no place to limit that. And I know the argument is that if people are committing crimes, yada yada. However, when you make someone being alive a crime, then what are people supposed to do? And even if somebody doesn't have their paperwork, that by no means justifies kidnapping them and taking them away from their homes. And I've seen the work that lawyers and people are trying to do to locate people that have gone missing, and all of the red tape that makes it almost impossible for you to help a family member once they've been captured by ICE, that there's really no way to give them funds to get them support, because they make it this like loophole system that is just so ill-intentioned and unconscionable. And I think this is just a really horrible blight on our history right now, that yeah, I'm very, very upset. And seeing the militarization of like the police forces continue to expand, I think that nobody should be comfortable with that, and I hope that people use their voices to dissent as much as we can, because silence in a time like this is just not something that I can be a part of.
Yeah, I think that the thing about this is it's just obviously to me not a argument about like the like immigrants committing crimes. That is just a note to try to sidetrack people and get certain people on board. It's not about crime committing. People that have been harmed, kidnapped, killed are not committing crimes or don't have a criminal record. Not to say all of them, but plenty of them. There's not a criminal record. It is we are experiencing fascism, and ethnic cleansing, and it also, I think this week, as many people on social media have pointed out, I think that a lot of white people didn't really believe that they were going to be in danger because of this, and that the loss of Renee Good was a wake-up call to plenty of people that felt like, my family and my friends aren't really like the people being affected by this. No, every civilian that is not part of the power dynamic is affected by this and can be affected by this. I just also think that's such a horrible way to look at things, to think like this is outside of me and my privileged circle. I also have been thinking a lot about how many people are saying, like, does this remind you of something? And it's talking about Nazi Germany. And I think a lot of white Americans are uneducated about our history, myself included. I have a lot of learning to do about the history of our country, and I think that the call is coming from inside of the house. We have a lot of history of oppression in this country and fascism, and they're even just looking at the roots of slave catchers and where this type of violence and segregation has come from. I think that people need to be owning the fact that this is an American issue, that if you are an American citizen who's someone like me, where I wrestle with the thought of, like, there are ways where I am a patriot and I do believe in this country, and there are ways where I completely do not resonate with the history and the founding of this country. And I think at the end of the day, if, like, there's no choice, and there should be no choice but to stand with the people. We're for the people, and when there's a corruption of government and power, it is very important to me that we are standing with the people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so brave, the people who have been peacefully protesting and trying to mitigate these kidnappings and atrocities happening, and there is so much violence being committed by ICE to peaceful protesters and peaceful neighbors, citizens trying to use their voice or physically block whatever. You can look into the case of Renee Good, and it's very clear that there was a neighbor trying to stand up for a neighbor. And
mm-hmm. And in that video, you hear the ICE officer that shot Renee Good right after he murdered her say, "You fucking bitch," which I think is another reminder that that is steeped in so much misogyny, and it's all these systems are tied up within each other of racism and misogyny and classism, and the saying that we have brought up before on the podcast, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, just, I think, proves itself time and again. And if you value freedom and justice for yourself, I just think that has to extend to everyone. And I am really proud of the effort that a lot of people are putting into trying to protect people in their community, and the unfortunate truth is that does come with risk to yourself, but I don't think by trying to, like, stay out of the situation that you protect yourself either. So you kind of have to choose to be brave, and I wish that this weren't the situation, but I really wish that we weren't 1 year into a 4-year term of this. Who knows what's going to happen? And I hope that judges and politicians that know a lot more about the legal system than we do can figure out a way to protect people a lot better than what's happening right now. So, we're not gonna focus on this the whole episode, but I don't want that to ever diminish how seriously we take this and how much it's on our minds, because it really is. And especially being from the hometown that we're from, where we have a really strong community of first generation immigrants that truly support the community so much. And back, this was, I can't remember how many years ago it was, but when we were working at a restaurant, ICE came and took one of our coworkers, and we were lucky enough to work for a boss that cared to protect his people and went to bail him out and was able to do that. But that's not going to happen. For everyone.
That was a different
that wasn't under an
system.
Administration that was going after immigrants the way that this one is. And it shouldn't be any surprise to anybody when he campaigned on mass deportation. It's not a surprise. It's just a horrible thing that's happening. So we can't lose sight of that. And I hope that you guys can look into what's going on in your city, because everywhere is having different efforts come up. There are awesome organizers pretty much all around. And if you haven't heard of the whistle system, that's one way that people are alerting each other of what's happening. But it's really hard and scary to know what to do when these are agents driving unmarked cars, often wearing unmarked, like not in uniform. So you just don't know if someone's going to pull up in a van and snatch someone off the street. That's not propaganda. That's not certain like media portraying things. That's just what's happening. So it's really frightening because it is racial profiling. It's happening to people based off of nothing. It's like Quinn said, it's not about legality, and even if it were, then you're entitled to due process in this country, and if you believe that you're innocent until proven guilty, then why should anyone be treated like that? I have a hard time even knowing how to go on from there, Quinn, because it gets me down.
It's so important, and I feel like if you're a listener of ours, and I think our listeners, I know we can give the credit to that you guys are critical thinkers. You are going to look internally and be aware and call yourself out for where you can improve and where you can do better. And to me, what I'm working on right now is, as a person, a white woman, who I am like more and more aware all of the time of the unbelievable privilege that I receive in this country. That doesn't make me feel like, oh, so I'm safe and I'm protected. No, but like, it is very humbling, and it is very important to acknowledge when you have power in a dynamic. And I just think the most important thing to do is to educate yourself, to be aware of what your internal thoughts are on this right now. Be aware of what the groups around you are thinking or saying about this. Be brave enough to admit you were wrong if you've been wrong, and improve and seek more knowledge and seek diverse knowledge. That to me is so important. And at this point, social media and the internet, this has been said a million times, but there really is no excuse. There is no excuse to not seek education, and that has been a priority for me. Because I think as white people, like many white people, it's almost like when Charlie Kirk, that the situation of losing Charlie Kirk, how many white people came forward being like, wow, now this is a tragedy, when there have been deaths upon deaths happening. And there's so much to be said about that and so much nuance. And Riley and I do think it's important to talk about this, and we also think that the Q&R code is a place for us to have these tough conversations and also think about the joy in life, think about gratitude, practice those things. So we do have more to say beyond this in this episode. But if Renee Good, a white woman being killed, was to you the wake-up call, like, just consider what that means, because Black and brown people have been aware and worried about this in huge part for like decades, centuries. It's such a privilege to not have this feeling like in your body of I am not safe. And I am potentially like, there could be threats literally anywhere around me, and there are so many racist people alive today that truly, truly express vile racism, and more subtle, and people that just do not check themselves and are not trying to grow. This administration is showing you is showing me a lot about who people really are. And if this is like, to me, it's a trip, because it's a time that it's like, if you aren't being aware and having your eyes open and listening to what people around you are saying and acting on that, like, when are you going to wake up from your privilege and realize that, like, life is not all about you, the world doesn't revolve around you, and the sun doesn't rise and set with you, and we need to be strong for humankind. I will say, with the 2016 trend on the internet, this was just a little peek into my life of being like, wow, seeing that post that I just shared on my Instagram story from 2016 that I made, and I did feel like I was dropping bars, because I was thinking so deeply about this at 16 years old, of at that time what the political climate felt like about people's unalienable rights for the pursuit of happiness, and that we are not truly equal until we're all equal. And that is just a fight that's going to, like, keep, I don't, it probably will last forever. But I think that it's surprising to me when there are people that are right now like, oh my gosh, what? Like, could have never expected. And it's like, okay, let's be so for real. Open your eyes. If you aren't expecting what this is coming right now, like, I just think you need to have a little bit more of a serious check-in with yourself about issues much bigger than your personal inner, like, bubble that feels cushy and protected.
I think that it's been such a, like, almost rubber band bounce back retaliation, because there was this kind of 2008 to 2016 era that felt like, wow, same-sex marriage was legalized, and there was a lot of progress in terms of seeing, like, there was still a gender pay gap, but it was shrunk, and there was more representation for people of color. And it's almost like this retaliatory movement came out that just became, like, so radical, slingshot back, that feels very disorienting. But it's also always important to me to look at history. And if you're listening to this the day it comes out, yesterday was Martin Luther King Jr. Day, looking at leaders from movements that have made a lot of change, I think is always really inspiring, even though it's dark and upsetting what prompts these movements. I really appreciate referencing different leaders with different mentalities. There's opposing why my freaking brain, it's frustrating when I'm not firing on full cylinders and I'm trying to have a good thought, but they'll kind of position MLK as Malcolm X's kind of counterpart. But actually, in any of these movements, like, you can't isolate one from the other because they happened together and that created change. And with all these different mentalities, I think that's another important thing to remember when you're working with a group. I have friends that are much more conservative, friends that are much more liberal, friends that identify as libertarian, friends that hate politics altogether, and all of these different perspectives and mindsets have something to contribute and have a perspective that informs them and can all agree when something is unequivocally wrong. And all different people, despite background, could say, this isn't right. Nobody deserves to live in fear of being kidnapped and separated from their families. Nobody deserves to live in fear of being shot in the face by an officer that then is going to face no legal repercussions for doing so. And by working together with people from different perspectives, instead of being so with our heels dug in about see it all my way, I think is just the only way we're gonna move forward. You know, people say, yeah, but it would be a different sort of evil if someone else was in politics. Okay, we can agree that there will be different problems that come up, but when you look at history with world leaders, it's not like every single world leader has been equally problematic, just with different issues. That's not true. That just doesn't make sense, you know. There's, of course, downfalls. I don't hold anyone up to be this perfect beacon of, now that person was flawless, that administration was just excellent, but I don't think that there's any denying that there have been people that have pushed for more positive change and have created a lot more hurt and damage, and we should all be looking towards the best possible outcome for the most amount of people.
I think if you have strong morals, that's the thing to stand by. If you, first of all, open your heart to change. That is something that I do not just preach. I very much look internally and open my heart to change. That was something that probably when my years, I don't know if it was like 19 to 21 or 22 years of age, that was very hard for me because I felt like I am vindicated in these beliefs and like I have done a lot of thinking about this. And this matters to me, and I truly believe in this side, especially at that time because, like, Trump was coming into the office for the first time, and there was so much polarity, and I just really thought, like, aligning with this side makes the most sense. I even thought that being a vegan or, like, not eating animal products, I think that sometimes you have to, like, have a bit of... In life, there's a bit of a radical swing to help you find a little more of a point where you can feel like, okay, I'm actually a little more settled and grounded now and don't, like, I know that my belief system now is actually a lot stronger and it's a lot more nuanced and it sees more of the spectrum of sides. Like, I don't feel just shut off to hearing anything that challenges my opinion. I actually think it's so important to hear things that challenge where you currently sit. So I am so proud right now of the the people on different sides of our political spectrum in the US that are being able to claim, yeah, I saw this, I thought this. I am so proud of the conservatives who are right now saying, this is not what I believe in. This is not the government I want. This is like absolutely immoral, inhumane, racist, bigoted, disgusting. That is so important to have people from the different political sides of the spectrum hearing, like, looking at and actually acknowledging what's going on and being willing to say, I thought this would be different, I'm wrong, whatever it is. That doesn't take back the hurt. Obviously, if you go into someone with a ginormous platform that was turning millions of heads to get people to vote, I think that takes a lot more than oh, look, things are different now. Like, anyway.
Y'all know who Quinn's talking about.
No one in particular. But the point is, yes, I think the last thing that we need right now is people being like, I'm just based on their label, I'm anti-them, anti-them, anti-them. We need the common good of the people. Hear each other out. Have open hearts. Believe that we want the same thing. And then if you realize, no, we really don't, okay, then that is where you better be the person in the room that is speaking for justice if you are hearing injustice. That's how I feel.
And I think that it's important to try right now to have that like softness and grace to accept people to change their minds, because I think that has been a criticism of liberals in general, is a righteousness that makes people feel more like more prone to dig their heels in, because nobody likes the feeling of an I told you so person. And I think trying to have that space to be like, it's okay to come into things in your own time, and it's not even being like, see, I was right. I just trying to drop the ego out of these things as much as possible to make space for people to change their minds, because I do think that a lot of like this defensiveness comes up of people feeling like, well, now maybe even if I am questioning myself, I feel like I can't admit to that because whatever the feelings are that come up with it. We said we were going to talk about different things this episode, and now we have talked about it for so long, but I would actually like to bring up a very...
Traitors.
Yes. A very different tone, which is the show Traitors, hosted by Alan Cumming, who I love. Let me just say that this is...
love.
Like the best... Would you call it, what type of reality show would you call this? Like
reality game show, right?
Reality game show, that's kind of what I thought. It's Survivor-esque, but nobody does it with the theatrics quite like Alan does. The fashion, the tone, it's so fun having it be like the castle setting and the whole... He really does leave it to the gays to create something with just such drama and fun.
Personality. Verve.
Yes, he has verve.
He's got verve.
I can't believe, like, you can tell just how much they put into the set by the way the celebrities and contestants, like, react being there, because I would think a lot of them being on reality or other shows in the past are kind of hard to impress, but when they get there, they are all like actually experiencing those feelings of being like shocked and spooked and all of that. I think they put so much into the production.
They lean into the storytelling so much, even the fact that they have them arrive in the cars at night in the dark. Like, clearly, that's an intentional decision. all of those little things, like that is something I love so much about the art of media, a show, something like this, is you have to give credit to art, like the brains behind that, because that is such a world building, like even the entrance, and it's spooky, and everyone is in costume from the get-go, like with the opening of the gates, with the boom fire at boom boom fire. I think this is, yeah, probably my favorite reality game show period, because of all that, what you're saying, the fashion, the setting, the games. They do such a good job. Sean and I just have only watched the first episode.
Making celebrities do physical challenges.
Me too. I love when they fall in the water face first. But I think it's such an interesting show that is so fun to see the different dynamics that come up. And also Sean was like, okay, what if Q&R were on, and would you guys immediately have a target on your back? Because first of all, would you want to be a traitor or a faithful? And second of all, like, are you guys not going to be, having a target on your back? I was like,
yes.
Powerful people often have a target on their backs.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing this up, because I don't know if Sean brought this up because did you see how they put out a call that they were going to do a season with regulars, not just celebrities? No. And yes, they said to submit your applications, and I was like, oh my gosh, what if Quinn and I did that? But then I thought, well, people immediately wouldn't trust us because of all this anti-twin propaganda.
Yeah, but also how horrible would it be if one of us was picked as the traitor and it's straight up and one wasn't, and it's like, yeah, I actually am gonna lie to you as hard as I've ever had to lie in my life.
Yeah, Brayden said, like, if
could we do it,
the traitor, you wouldn't be able to not tell Quinn. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I wouldn't be able to hide it from you, because imagine me to you if you were like,
you could try.
Like, are you serious? Are you a faithful? Be honest. And I was like, yes, Quinn, I'm a faithful. Like, obviously I'm a fucking faithful. And I was like that with you, and then I wasn't. You would be like, oh, so you lied in earnest to my face. I don't know, Quinn. Would that erode trust between us?
I think this is where I actually think with the gamers versus the normies on the regular reality TV or whatever, I think something that the gamers do right is be like, I game till I die, but also, yeah, you have to understand this is a game. If you're gonna go out of here and this actually affects your personal relationships with someone in here, maybe you should have been having a little bit more of the switch flipped, because that would be such a trip, and I would not like that. But also, I feel like we would have to go in having a pact of just like, we are going to play the game to the best of our ability, and no matter what it is, like, our time in here is focusing on the game, and
I think
probably going to be a little weird for us.
I think you could definitely make it, like, be like, yes, this is a game, but I truly don't know that I could.
Well, we would just be like,
with it with you, like,
yeah, really, bitch.
I don't know, because I don't know. I was thinking about even being a traitor, and in some ways I'm like, I think I could do it, but in other ways, I don't think I'd do well. Yeah, I might rather be a faithful, and like, I think I would be better at sniffing out the traitors anyway, but being the traitor himself, I just don't know if, like, there are the people that their character is they want to, like, I want to be that, and I think that that's probably better suited for someone that wants to, whereas I'm more like, I think I want to try to suss them out and be part of the team players. I think that's more my role. If I was chosen as a traitor, could I do it? Time would tell. However, so far, isn't it true that so far no traitors have like survived? I think it's extremely hard to actually win as a traitor because you have to like survive for so long and then get to that very last round where they pick everyone off. I wonder if there will be a season or a time where the traitor does take it all, because it's so hard to like be on nobody's radar for that long. Like, people suspect people that aren't traitors all the time, so it's obviously hard to like it's so frustrating on the show with the dramatic irony when somebody's like, no, like, trust me, they're a traitor, and you're like, but they're not.
Yeah, it is crazy to think of the amount of interaction. Like, you just really need to be on your game. And something I liked when Candace, I believe that's her name, she's one of the housewives. I don't know the housewife series. What's it called? Franchise well at all. So it was my first time meeting her, but I think it was Candace who said she was so stoked to be a traitor because she's like, it's called the Traitors. That's the whole point. Like, main character energy. The traitors are the main character. And I'm like, you're perfect for that position. I'm happy with, like, yes, I love to be a main character here and there. I'm also pretty happy to, like, float amongst the crowd of, you know, the normies. But that would be such a test of
be a faithful
strategy.
That would be voted out for people thinking that I was a traitor, and then I would be like, I'm genuinely a faithful, and people would think because I had like opinions or whatever that then they would vote me out, and then I would be stood up there being like, I'm a faithful. Damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that, Riley. Maybe we should submit applications, because what's the worst that happens? I think that having a set of twins on there could be pretty interesting.
Me too.
Actually.
Except for, you know, what would be so sad is inevitably, well, there is a chance that we get to the end together. However, likely one of us would have to go first, and that would be heartbreaking. We could make it work, but that happened before on RuPaul's Drag Race. They had twins on, and it was so sad.
Yeah, I don't like that one bit.
And that happened on Love Island, which is a different sort of thing, but both times the twin was so sad after the other left, and I was like, genuinely emotional. It's so funny watching literally Love Island that I'm like, her twin had to leave.
Yeah, that would be horrible. That, you're so right. That is the worst part of it. We would definitely have to be like, there's a hotel for us on this island, that, or whatever. Yes, so excited about that. Riley and I are watching that. Also,
you know who's so annoying already?
Michael
Rappaport. Yes, I'm like, you are literally so annoying.
He was one of the people I recognized like immediately. I was like, I don't know what you're in, but I know I've seen you act in movies multiple times. The only
thing I could remember him being in, well, two things. Friends, which is so random because he's not a big part on Friends at all, but he is in Friends, and Prison Break. But I feel like...
What is he in Prison Break?
That's the thing, is I don't really remember, but I know he was a character in Prison Break, but we watched that show over 10 years ago, so it's really hard for me to recall anything, but I'm like... himself as a person, you and Sean are earlier into the series than I am, so I don't want to give it away, but he just continues to annoy, and I feel badly because it's one of those situations where you're like, I don't want to bully someone just for who they are, but I just think your personality is extremely grating, and it must be a very particular type of person that can like be your long-term friend.
Fair enough. I'm surprised about, well, I guess I won't. In case anyone is going to get into the season, since it is brand new, I won't say specifics, but I was surprised about a couple of the people on there, and love that Mark Ballas from Dancing with the Stars got to be on. I'm like, he's probably
I
so
know.
stoked about that.
I think he's the first pro from Dancing with the Stars to be on the show.
I think so too. I
would
also
love to
actually
see
like
this
that
more.
that they go like so far and wide for people.
Yeah. Yeah, I am really excited about Monet being on there.
Yeah.
Monet Exchange, one of my faves. I think that was it last season that Peppermint was on there, so not the first drag queen on the show.
No, I think it was last season was Bob, and then the
and
season
Peppermint
before.
was the first season.
Yeah. Which I love that. That's another thing that I love about this show is I'm like, thank you for getting people actually from different walks of life. First of all, way more interesting. Second of all, yeah, entertaining. Why I do not need to watch a bunch of boring white straights all killing each other. Like, you know what? Maybe that's that's deserved somewhere else. But I love that this franchise of the Traitors prioritizes having all sorts of different people be a part of the show. It makes it so much more interesting.
Probably having a queer host helps a lot.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you. Credit where credit is due. Other media update, Riley, because you suggested, of course, who do you guys think I turned to when we were having our super long road trip to go pick up Jimbo to listen to audiobooks? We reached out to Riley and Brayden, who are book and audiobook pros. They're seasoned with a long road trip as well. And you gave us some great options. We did end up choosing You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akweke Emezi, who we have referenced on the Q&R code before for their incredible book, The Death of Vivek Oji. And you were right about you being like, if you want something a little sexy, immediately sexy. There was no question of if the book, really, is there ever going to be a spicy scene? That is how it is introduced. But I really like it because also the story, that's fun, where it's just like, woo, okay, like we're getting into it immediately. And the story develops.
Quinn's type of book.
Yeah, yes. And the story develops so much too, where it's like, it's not at all just, it doesn't stay
writing.
just that. Yeah, like, but I don't know that I've ever read a spicy book that opens with that type of scene. So I was like, yeah, you go for it. No problem.
Yeah. So you finished the book?
No, I'm not quite finished, but
Okay.
because Sean and I you would not be surprised about this, but with my attention span, like sometimes even on a road trip where is the best time to be like hunker down, do this, and I probably do it better if I'm solo driving. But then with us, we couldn't help but then we're bringing up something about Jimbo, and then we're whatever. I think what a lot of people with audiobooks struggle about is they're like, then I forget, I don't focus, and then I miss it. So I just try to pause as soon as I can when I realize, like, okay, need a brain break of not focusing on the story. So I have a little time of that left, but then the other book I'm currently reading is, I believe it's called The Body Language of Horses. I am taking myself through horse school right now, you guys. It's the best. Remember, you don't even have to go to school to put yourself through schooling. And I have all these.
You can just reteach yourself long division.
Yeah, you can just go seek. At that point, you need to seek help. It's just, but I'm really excited because at first, there are books I specifically want to buy from mentors who I consider my mentors in the horsemanship industry, even if they don't necessarily know it. But their suggested reading. But I realized I have all these books that I was so lucky to inherit from my grandparents when they had to downsize, and so many of them I haven't read, and they were pushed back in the back of my bookshelf that I had to blow off some dust. Let's be real. But I'm so excited. So now I have seriously a stack this big of to be read, and immediately I'm just eating it up. Have learned so much, and I'm in the mind space right now that is so, I'm a sponge. I'm just like, and I crave it. I just crave knowledge about horses so much. So I'm like, I'm leaning into this because there might be a time where I feel like, whew, okay, I need to take a little bit of a break with that. That's been intense. A lot of food for thought. That is not how I feel right now. I feel all speed, full speed ahead. Literally throw it at me. And I'm just like, bite, 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 catching all the information. So.
Well, that's so good because you're going to become so well versed in that. I feel like my problem, which it's not like the worst problem to have, but is that I am right now craving learning from like so many different things. I want to learn more of this skill and this skill and this skill and this skill that then I'm not focusing in zoned and really like experting it up in that, but I can't help it. I just want to know so much about so much, and I feel like you can learn more than one thing at once, but also it is a little bit of a kind of chaos of vibes in some ways that I maybe could narrow down a little, but
I love that you brought that up, actually, because I also wanted to say that something I have resisted so much in life is I've always kind of, it's not like I feel this overwhelming guilt about it, but I feel a little like bad or weird I've always been someone who starts plenty of books, and I do finish books too, and that, to me, I like that. That is important to me as well. But there are many books that I've started and that then I would, instead of just feeling like, wow, I'm so proud that I picked up this book and spent any time reading, it would kind of be, almost feel more like, okay, well, you kind of failed at finishing the book. And now my mindset has shifted so much, and I have several books going across. Like, one of the books I'm reading is Wealth by Virtue by my barefoot trimmer's husband, which is dope. Excellent finance book by Chad Gordon. And I'm reading a few pages here and there. I'm reading my horse book. I'm also reading my Backyard Bird Chronicles book, reading more about birds. And I am just feeling excited and welcoming in taking little bits and pieces of information, because that's so fair to do, and that's, to me, just a positive thing. And of course it feels a different type of fulfilling to deep dive one area, but I think, right, that's awesome that you're feeling that, and just lean into taking your little bites out of different things.
Yeah, I need to just tune in that there's nothing to feel anxious about. There's no pressure. It's just life. It's just time. You're excited. You're learning. At least you're a motivated person that wants to know more and read more and experience more. And I'll just continue to do so. Speaking of birds in your bird book, I will just let everyone know that the cutest birds in the world have been outside my window this entire podcast. My favorite little chickadees. But these chickadees, they're Carolina chickadees. I referenced my bird guide before this to find out. Oh, not me noticing I've just had my used tissue in the frame this whole time.
We can't blame you. You're sick. We're sorry about that.
Thank you. They're like a ping pong ball, you guys. They're so cute and tiny little fluffy ears. And it's been snowing throughout this whole podcast. We're having a Charlottesville snow day. How fun is that? It hasn't snowed since before Christmas here, so that's cute. But Quinn and I are going to keep on learning and enjoying, because when we have trying times, no matter what times we're in, but especially when there's trying times, you need to also find your fuel and your joy and your passion and the why, because otherwise you're just going to feel like, what's even the point? Why should I care about this? Because everything's so awful. And
do not feel guilty for joy. Feel guilty if that means, oh, I just am totally like wipe my hands clean. I'm just not even going to acknowledge this is real. But to find the balance, that's the most powerful thing we can do right now, I think.
You don't want to be like the meme that I sent to Quinn that said, joy is resistance, said white women whose only form of resistance is joy or something. I forget exactly what it was.
Yeah.
But
exactly. You need to be on both sides, but I think I cannot agree with like there's just no room for thinking positively right now. No. That, I can tell you what, for me personally, that's not going to keep me motivated to keep fighting the good fight. Like, I need to feel like my cup is being filled to keep pouring into the cups of others.
Well, it was like during the AIDS epidemic that, I forget who the quote was or if it was just a general sentiment, but that they said like they protested all day and then danced all night because it was like, just, you need to still live and find those moments. And in any of the darkest times, I think that's another message from Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl that I've brought up in the past. That would be a potent book to read if anyone hasn't. It's a short book, which is also always welcome. He's a survivor from Auschwitz, and the people that made it and survived, that he felt like the common thread was having a reason, whether that was faith, whether that was family, hope, whatever. Just to get through the darker times, you need to have a spark that fuels you, and there are lots of different ways to get that, and I think that nature is one that is accessible to everyone and can be really exciting to start learning more about plants, birds, animals. Being in tune with that part of ourselves feels like such a big coming home, I think, for a lot of people that have maybe felt alienated for a couple generations now from that intrinsic part of ourselves. We are nature. There's no like us and them about it. So I hope that can inspire you going into the rest of your week. And thank you for listening to Miss Croaky over here. I hope I'm firing on full cylinders next week.
Me too. And anyone that has got the flu this season, any season, but I've just heard that people have been down bad, so we are sending love. Stay healthy, drink your water. If you have a moment and wouldn't mind doing us a favor, we would really appreciate a 5-star review anywhere you listen to us. You can also always DM or message us or comment on one of our posts. We really appreciate to hear the positive feedback. We'll take negative feedback too, just don't post it online. Just kidding. But please share our podcast if you like this. If you listen on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Any bit that you can contribute to us, that's just letting us know you're a part of our community. It really means a lot to us and helps us stay motivated for these podcasts. So thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to follow us on the Q&R Code on Instagram, as well as Quinn Liliestrom and Riley Liliestrom. And we drop a new episode every Tuesday. Life is good. We are so lucky to be here with you guys. Thank you for listening to what we have to say. Life is complicated and beautiful and tragic, and we're really grateful to have a place that we can discuss all of those nuanced feelings. So best luck for your week. Happy rest of January, and we will talk to you next Tuesday. Goodbye.